This is Gil, full name Gil Gunderson. He is Springfield's premier sales journeyman, selling houses, cars, computers, vacuum cleaners, newspaper subscriptions, Amway, insurance, sandwiches, and, well, you get the point. He has also had stints as a lawyer, security guard, mall Santa, and grocery store employee. Basically, Gil's done pretty much everything. His resume rivals Homer's. Unfortunately, Gil has never done any of these jobs well. Poor Gil. This is the history of Gil. I'll confess, I never thought Gil would get a Simpsons Histories because he's not someone I've ever gravitated toward. He has always gotten on my nerves. But after talking about Herb Powell's downfall and why he sucks, it made me reevaluate Gil's struggles in the job market. He's always been a punching bag for both the series and the fandom, and it makes me wonder how deserved it is. Is Gil a one-note pastiche that the writers have driven into the ground? Or does he have hidden depths? Fundamentally, why do we all want to beat up Ol Gil so much? As always, we'll go back to the beginning to figure it out. And by the beginning, I mean Season 9. Wow, this has got to be the latest we've ever started one of these things, huh? Gil's first appearance was in Realty Bites, as one of the many agents of the Red Blazer Realty. Almost immediately, we the audience get his entire shtick. He describes how he'd been there for 42 years, begs Marge for leads, and Hut sternly tells him not to drag her down. Later, he desperately rattles off a laundry list of sales nonsense, and Hut takes away one of his cubicle walls. But don't worry, it's not the one he brought from home. This is a curious debut for a Simpsons regular, as he is a very direct parody of Jack Lemmon's character in Glengarry Glen Ross, right down to the begging for leads and his mannerisms. It's such a specific homage for this setting, you would think this would be a one-off character, never to be seen again. Clearly, the writers liked Ol Gil immediately, as he showed up 3 more times in Season 9. In The Last Temptation of Crust, now he's a shoe salesman with a bad back. In The Trouble with Trillions, he's in tax trouble, lamenting his situation and asking Homer to put in a good word for Ol Gil. In Natural Born Kissers, now he's selling cars. His pitch to naked Homer and Marge does not work and they steal his hot air balloon. This is the first reference to Gil's poor living conditions, as he confesses he was living in that balloon. Despite being brand new, Gil would show up in 3 or 4 episodes in each of the next 2 seasons. In Season 10, he's selling Coleco computers, setting up Ralph for the classic Super Nintendo Chalmers. This is definitely one of my favorite Gil scenes, how he starts talking rust-proofing right away and scolds himself to "Close the deal, Gil, close the deal." It didn't matter either way, because next time we see him, he's gambling away the company's whole payroll. In Maximum Homer Drive, he's a doorbell salesman, doing his typical old man dance and worrying about Lisa getting in the game. In the Canyonero episode, he's back to auto sales again. Homer is so enthusiastic to get the Canyonero, not even Gil's terrible pitch about water damage can ruin the sale. I really love this appearance too, how he finally gets to put a sale on the board and the other sales guy confidently takes it away from him. It's so hilariously pathetic. We also learn that Gil has a wife who's cheating on him. He calls her up to tell her about the almost sale, hears Fred in the background, and then has an awkward convo with him. It's clear that these Scully years saw Gil as a less competent Lindsay Naegle type, who they can just throw whatever job at that the script requests. In Season 11, now he's a telemarketer for the Springfield shopper, desperately dancing for the customer even though they can't see him. In the Octuplets episode, he's working at the Quickie Mart, cleaning up the mess when Manjula's water breaks. In Days of Wine and Dozes, he's at an AA meeting with Barney. He's not an alcoholic, but he did lose 3 jobs in 2 days, and now wants to sell them something from Amway. They drag him out of the room at the worst possible time. After this point, it seems the Scully administration got tired of Gil, as he only appears in the Season 12 Sideshow Bob episode. He is living in a storage unit and introduces Bob to all the other revenge-plotting weirdos. With Al Jean taking over as showrunner in Season 13, they introduce a new key role for Gil, as lawyer for the Simpson family. In Sweets and Sour Marge, Marge picks him out from the street to represent her against mother-loving Sugar. He questions Professor Frink and this Count Chocula guy, and, thanks to a poorly considered bribe, wins his first court case. That same season, in the Frying Game, he defends Homer in his murder case. This one goes considerably worse, as he has no closing argument and is already reading about his next career when the guilty verdict comes in. In My Mother the Carjacker in season 15, he represents Mona Simpson against her old charges. His license is expiring in 15 minutes and prompts Homer to help them out, and Homer's heartfelt plea actually wins over the jury. Gil wins yet another case against the blue-haired lawyer. It's better to be lucky than good, I guess. In these early Al Jean seasons, we didn't see Gil in his traditional sales role quite as much. He's a farmer in a Treehouse of Horror episode, whose crops and body gets decimated by the Homer clones. In Pray Anything, he's working as a sexy basketball mascot. Even after finding out he's a man, Moe still wants to get married. That's how sexy Gil's legs are in Fishnets. More on Gil's legs later. In season 16, he pitches a terrible business idea to the school. Chalmers throws a stapler at him. This is around the time where the writers started experimenting with darker jokes in relation to his home life. Before, the sad Gil jokes were about his professional failures or LOL his wife is cheating. But now we get stuff like Old Yellerbelly, where he's getting kicked out of the men's mission because he's hit his 6-month limit. Gil immediately goes to sell his eyes for cash. In Tis the 15th Season, we literally see Gil about to end it all. When we see him later at the skating rink, he still has the broken cord around his neck. At the end of I, Dobot, he narrowly avoids hitting Snowball 5 and crashes into a tree. He's excited about the insurance settlement and does a jig, but presumably dies off-screen when the car explodes. In season 17, he got a new job and a new suit, but is presumably killed again by stampeding bulls. In season 18, he managed to get his own Spotlight episode, Kill Gil Volumes 1 and 2. Wow, they're just handing out Spotlight episodes to anyone these days. And it's a Christmas episode too. Sorta. This episode is an interesting experiment in how they balance his annoyingness with a sense of sympathy we might feel. He has always been a pitiable character, but this time he makes Lisa's Christmas wish come true, and refuses to take it away when his boss commands him. It's the first time we, the audience, are supposed to rally around Gil in a meaningful way. It's heartwarming when the Simpsons invite him in for Christmas. At the same time, this is Gil, and he very quickly grates on the family, as he mooches off of them and repeatedly guilt trips Marge. After 11 long months, she is finally ready to tell him off, but by then he's found a realtor job in Scottsdale. Marge literally takes her entire family to Arizona so she can yell at him, ruining his newfound self-confidence in front of his sales staff. Personally, I don't get why the Simpson family got into this situation to begin with. Didn't they remember from the Bible, "Thou shalt not take moochers into thy hut"? Coming off his Spotlight episode, we are now ready for the golden age of Gil, ready for him to dominate each episode with his Jack Lemony charm. In season 19, he is shot and killed on his first day as a security guard. Damn. Actually, this joke surprises me every single time. How his previous deaths were all kinda arguable or Hans Moleman off-screen stuff. But nope, unlike in the episode Kill Gil, they literally killed Gil in this one. No doubt about it. Anyway, Gil returned again in season 20. Why? Because Gil is a demigod. Or, like in that Treehouse segment, Springfield is stuck in a time loop until he's killed. Or he is already dead, and Springfield is his personal hell. For all the Gil haters in the audience, I don't know who is being tortured. Now that Gil is well established and had his Spotlight episode, the HD era was more willing to let him take substantial roles in episodes, and not totally relegate him to cutaways and one-off gags. In season 20, for example, Gil gets a very rare W by hustling Lisa in the crossword championship. He makes her feel bad by talking about his wife Shirley who passed away, then purposefully drops his glasses and finishes when she's distracted. In that same season, Gil is working as their mortgage broker and gives them the bad news that the house will need to be foreclosed. But don't worry, Marge, if you can learn how to make soup from rocks and grass, you'll make it. In the episode 500 Keys, Gil attempts to throw himself off a building. but is suddenly saved by Bart, who is, in Gil's words, his naked fairy godboy. The town then celebrates his naked fairy godboy. In season 28's Dogtown, we get Gil's second biggest role in the series, when Homer's brakes fail and he chooses to hit Gil instead of Santa's little helper. Gil ends up in the hospital and is excited to sue the Simpsons for everything they're worth. However, during the trial, the jury feels sympathetic toward the dog, and the blue-haired lawyer totally bungles his closing argument. Wow, the blue-haired lawyer is really running bad today. It's like Gil is his kryptonite. Anyway, this is the impetus for one of the weirdest Simpsons concepts ever. The dogs end up taking over the town when it's determined their lives are legally worth more than humans. During a town hall meeting, Gil volunteers to stand up to the dogs to show them that he's not the town failure. Homer ends up defending Gil, which finally gets the town behind him. The weird thing is, despite all the hype, Gil doesn't even save the day. He shows up too late after Marge has fixed everything. Even in an episode that builds Gil up, the writers won't commit to him. One noticeable change in the later seasons is their willingness to portray Gil sympathetically, and not to only passively laugh at his suffering. For example, in season 30's Christmas episode, he's waiting outside on Black Friday to get his granddaughter a futon friend for Christmas. Marge feels bad for him, giving him her warm clothing, and even sacrifices her own Black Friday deal to help Gil get his. Unfortunately for Marge, Gil immediately flips it for $100 when Lovejoy offers. Dang it, Gil. In season 34, Gil joins Homer's conspiracy theory group to find a missing tortoise. There, he develops a romantic relationship with Miss Hoover. He eventually proposes, and the two get married on the beach in a conspiracy theory themed wedding. Unfortunately, after the tortoise is found, Gil and Hoover realize they have nothing in common and presumably separate again. However, the episode does end on a hopeful note as they bond over calamari conspiracies. I don't know if the Hoover-Gil relationship is going to be a thing in the series going forward, but I kind of like them as a D-list couple. The idea of miserable randos like Hoover and Gil having a passionate romance we don't care about is really funny to me. We have learned a little bit about Gil's backstory and relationships from these later seasons. Back in the Scully years, we discovered he was married, even if she was cheating on him with Fred. I presume they divorced or separated shortly afterward, since we see him frequently living alone. He has a shaky relationship with his kids, describing himself as happily estranged from them in season 30. Although maybe that's not totally true, as he is able to borrow his granddaughter in an attempt to ogle the attractive teacher of the Daddy and Me class. I really hope Gil didn't just abduct someone's kid. We've seen Gil in 3 different flashback episodes. In season 30's My Way or the Highway to Heaven, he's one of the salesmen in Ned's group. Describing his secret strategy is crying. He also warns Ned that the trampolines are death traps after 500 bounces due to static electricity, causing Flanders to go save young Homer's life. Speaking of which, Gil was also teen Homer's boss in the early 90s at this Chuck E. Cheese pizzeria knockoff. He seemed to be very successful running this business, motivating his employees and encouraging Homer to start his own hip-hop setlist after his successful improv. But alas, his business is suddenly raided by the FBI. Turns out, Gil was using this business as a front for trafficking illegal substances. Wow, who would have expected a Gil retrospective to go in this direction? We know he was out of prison by the time Bart and Lisa were little, because he is applying for a job with the police in a different flashback episode. I guess Chief Wiggum didn't care about his criminal past. We even know a little bit about Gil's schooling. According to his application in season 26, he attended Southern Illinois and was 2 credits away from graduating. In this same episode, by the way, we find out that Gil's sexy legs have taken a turn for the worse. What is it with Gil and costume jokes? Anyway, get this. A few episodes later in Sky Police, Gil shows up as the church's insurance adjuster. After excitedly rejecting their claim, he declares, "Those Cornell men at the head office are gonna be doing the Saluki strut tonight. Go Southern Illinois." And then he and Bart and Homer literally do the Saluki strut. Okay, So I went down a mini rabbit hole because seriously, what the hell is this? So, a Saluki is a royal dog of Egypt and is indeed the mascot for Southern Illinois University. But I can't find any evidence that the Saluki strut exists or that anyone has ever done it before. Even YouTube comments from students have never heard of it. Personally, if I went to Southern Illinois, I would have made sure that the Saluki strut is a real thing now for Ol Gil. But who am I to argue with Little Egypt? Other than giving us more information about his background, modern Simpsons would mostly just throw more jobs and poverty jokes in Gil's direction. In the mid-20s seasons, we got a couple instances of Gil working at the grocery store as someone who would return unwanted items. He annoys Shauna with his typical salesman rambles, and she ends up making out with him to try to shut him up. Shauna and Problematic Encounters, name a more iconic duo. Weird to think that there is a character that has made out with both Gil and Bart in the present day. The following season, Gil rats out Shauna for stealing at Marge's sandwich shop, so clearly the Gil-Shauna rivalry goes much deeper than we all thought. Gil has owned a quinceañera store, which was quite successful, becoming a target of a Bart and Maggie prank. In season 29, he returns to home insurance again, selling The Simpsons such a good policy that he will lose his job. In another episode, Bart and Lisa help him finish passing out his pamphlets. We have seen him working as the last videographer in Springfield, despite his extremely shaky hands. He has done random jobs working security at an aquarium, manually pulling the barely-go-round, owning a mall kiosk, working for Smithers' boyfriend's terrible fashion industry, as well as part of production in The Simpsons' social media empire. Oh, and he was a lawyer one more time in season 34. Am I becoming nostalgic for Lawyer Gil by now? Weird. Modern Simpsons liked playing up the homelessness angle in Gil's characterization even more. We'll see him living in the sewers or at the playground. In season 28, Gil was living in his car, which got crushed into a cube. We've seen him living in a cardboard box at Christmas, getting the once-over by a cadaver-sniffing dog. He'll get struck by lightning when using this lamppost outlet for his TV. In his most recent season 34 episode, they use Gil's situation as a plot point. Lisa and Marge give him a cleaning bag for his clothes, which motivated him to get his job back as a stock image guy. But in the end, he's living on the street again when their charity destroyed the low-income housing to build their headquarters. The Simpsons has always written a degree of sadness into Gil's characterization, but his living situation is portrayed a bit less cartoonishly and more on the realistic and gritty side. You never really know what you're gonna get with Ol Gil from episode to episode. Sometimes we feel bad for him and someone will give him $20 out of pity. Other times, he's blatantly taking advantage of people and you're just like, to hell with him. Gil gets what he deserves. As I mentioned at the beginning, Gil is a very direct parody of Jack Lemmon's character from Glengarry Glen Ross. And I think The Simpsons do a great job balancing both sides of this archetype. We feel bad for Gil with how hard he tries, but at the same time, he's such a shady and manipulative salesman that you don't mind that much when he fails. A very flawed character. If you've never seen the Jack Lemmon source material, I strongly recommend looking it up. Even if you don't want to watch the whole movie, at least check out the "So You're Here to Sell Me Land" house call. It is a legendary performance, and it makes total sense why The Simpsons wanted to pay homage to it. In that respect, I kinda love that Gil exists as a celebration of Jack Lemmon's work. It's nice, you know? At the same time, Gil's general shtick has gotten tiresome over the course of 20 plus years. You can only milk so much from those Jack Lemmon mannerisms before it gets stale and repetitive. It's fun seeing him do his old man hustle and dance in season 15, it's annoying in season 30. For what it's worth, it does feel like they've dialed back the direct Jack Lemmonisms a smidge over the years, and have played Gil as a more generic pathetic salesman. I think that's the right call. I think the best version of modern Gil is true to that archetype, without being 100% about shtick. I've never personally been a big fan of Gil. I once said he is my least favorite character. But I admit, in doing this project, I have warmed up to him quite a bit from looking at all of his appearances. He does have some very funny and memorable gags from over the years, and The Simpsons has used him in unique ways. I've always wondered if Gil gets a bad rap from The Simpsons fans because, on a subconscious level, we view him as a Lionel Hutz replacement. Realty Bites does feel like a passing of the torch, where afterward, Gil is forced into taking some of Hutz's roles. No one is ever going to live up to the greatness of Lionel Hutz. Lawyer Gil is always going to be a pale imitation. At the same time, maybe I need to separate the characters more in my mind and appreciate Gil for what he is. Gil sucks, but that's what's great about him. Let me know in the comments what you think of Ol Gil and your favorite moments of his. Is Gil just the worst, or should Simpsons fans give him more of a chance? Also, as always, keep those suggestions coming for who should be the next subject for Simpsons Histories. Currently, there's a lot of momentum behind Cletus, Comic Book Guy, Rainier Wolfcastle, and Duffman. Also, Lindsay Nagel has been a popular pick lately. Maybe we should run it back to another random career person. I love a good character pitch, so let your voice be heard. As always, thanks for watching.